I keep making reference to the difference between plugs. So I brought this. This is an English plug, and this is an American plug. Now, at the end of the day, you can see right off the bat, this one is huge, this one is small. If I had a Europe, there's going to be saying, oh yeah, but it's running 220, well, or 240. At the end of the day, I can plug this into a 220 as well, and I do. When I'm in China or Japan or whatever, and they run 220, I can plug this thing in, and guess what? My transformer will take care of it for my computer. But this is a monster-sized plug.
In the meantime, EV maker Rivian shares are trading slightly higher this morning, up about 2% after an announcement they have agreed to adopt Tesla's charging standard. Tesla's been a green mover all day long. Rivian's another one that's held on to a nice rally, up over 4% today, on the fact that they are partnering, of course, for Tesla's North American charging standard now, and giving Rivian access to that massive infrastructure that Tesla has been building out.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. You see, I don't think that Ford and Tesla are mutually exclusive.
Joining us now, PSEG CEO Ralph LaRosa. PSEG is the parent company of New Jersey's utility subsidiary, PSEG. So the and is the right. Well, great to have you here on set. Now, set up for me this new demand, right? Growing demand from plug-in hybrids, from EVs. What does that do to your ability to grow and to sort of manage efficiency to grow the business?
Another green day for Tesla as another automaker, Rivian, decides to join Batman, aka Elon Musk, in his Justice League. Yes, you heard correctly. Rivian has also capitulated and has decided to use the NACS, North America's charging standard. In case you haven't realized already, every automaker that plans to sell cars in America will want to be using this plug. Now, before we get into that, on screen now we got the one-day chart for Tesla, up over 5% today and still climbing overnight. Taking a look back at the 1 week, Tesla's up over 10.5%. Going back 1 month, up over 50%. Over the past year, Tesla is now up over 20%. Going back 5 years, as you know, those that have been carrying the stock since 2018 are quite happy with their investment. As for me, I'm getting there, right? Taking a gander at my most recent trade, I just sold the 247.50 call that I purchased on June 23rd for about $975. It ended up closing that contract today at $2,450. Taking a quarter for taxes, putting it in my tax fund should I need it. I'll be using another 25% to purchase stock, and the rest of that will go back into the brokerage account for me to utilize in more options activity. My bear case fair value estimate says that Tesla still has legs to climb higher, and just because I value the company that way doesn't mean the stock market is going to reward me for that assessment. But it's hard to argue where the retail money is and where big institutional investors are putting their money, and could surge even higher on the backs of the short sellers. Tesla is the most shorted stock in the market right now, and depending on how long those short sellers can hold their feet to the fire, Tesla has a potential to skyrocket. Only time will tell. Most of the market was down today, but Tesla is bucking that trend. Some intrinsic value of this company that not only smart money is putting their money in Tesla, the retail investors, they ain't going nowhere. We got a lot to get into today, but first, let's go ahead and get a PSA from Sandy Monroe.
Hey, boys and girls, I'm back again. The little tweet that I sent out wound up with about 45,000 people looking at it in about less than a half an hour. So I figured it might be worth our while to do a little short YouTube on just how important this latest development where Rivian comes on board with the new North American charging system. This is not just a little thing that's happening here. We've got an avalanche. Okay, so the first guy that came out was Aptera, and actually I've mentioned it before. They are one of our customers. We're helping them develop their product and whatnot. But the move for them to go to something that would actually fit in that smaller vehicle was their only option. Okay, so I keep making reference to the difference between plugs. So I brought this. This is an English plug, and this is an American plug. Now, at the end of the day, you can see right off the bat, this one is huge, this one is small. If I had a Europe, there's going to be saying, oh yeah, but it's running 220, well, or 240. At the end of the day, I can plug this into a 220 as well, and I do. When I'm in China or Japan or whatever, and they run 220, I can plug this thing in, and guess what? My transformer will take care of it for my computer. But this is a monster-sized plug. This thing costs the British every day. Every time somebody buys an appliance, one of these great big honking devices is on the end of it. This is the kind of thing that should have been taken into account when they went with CCS-1.
He ain't lying. CCS adapter was created by a committee, right? They weren't really looking at it from a product standpoint. In truth, that's fair. Flash in the pan niche. Those that do adopt will just, collect some side revenue.
I'm going to make another prediction. I made a prediction, I don't know, that would be more than a year ago now, that, hey, you know what? Everybody is eventually going to have to go to the Tesla charging system. And the reason for that is because the chargers that are out there just don't work as well as what Tesla does. And now we're seeing, okay, Aptera, and now Ford was a big OEM that came first. And then we have GM, and now we have Rivian. But let's think about it. How are the other guys? What are they going to do? As far as I'm concerned, Hyundai and Kia have nothing to lose by moving into this what I would classify as an engineered solution. Just look at the two plugs. We're going to put up something from Inside EV that's, I think, is brilliant, the way they show shadows, and that's the only way to go. I mean, who wants something that's ugly, heavy, and doesn't work?
As the diagram shows, there is no contest in determining which one of these adapters is better. As soon as Tesla created the NACS, you could see the difference. Much like the plugs from English to American, I know in my heart of hearts which one I'd rather have. One that's not the size of a cue ball. Size does matter. Don't let anybody tell you different.
As far as I'm concerned, moving toward this new way of doing business is the only solution, really, for people like Hyundai, Kia, and then eventually I think Toyota, and eventually Honda. The only guys that I see that are really going to be in trouble are going to probably be VW, because they've hung their hat on a system that now they tried to push through, and maybe it'll work in Europe. But I'm very, very doubtful that it's going to be the selected system here in North America. So I'm kind of going to encourage some of the other folks, the other players that are a little smaller. Lucid, I think Peter should maybe knock on Elon's door. I'm sure he's got direct access and whatnot. And all of the other smaller EV companies that are out there, I'm thinking it'd be a good idea for you to try and figure out how you can get into this system as well, because quite frankly, the people who don't move quickly will definitely be losers. I love the little picture that Sawyer Merritt put up with SpongeBob SquarePants. I think that this is kind of is very, very telling, with VW standing there looking out the window, everybody else moving in a different direction. I don't know how VW is going to recover or what they're going to do next, but I do know one thing. Ford, General Motors, Rivian, and Aptera are all on the lucky streak and all heading in the right direction. I've also found out that many of the better suppliers of electricity and whatnot, like the ABB folks and whatnot, they're also moving to chargers that can easily handle the new system, or the better system, which is the North American charging system.
Monroe Live gives incredible insight on how the cars are made, getting inside, underneath the skin of the EV. If you haven't checked out some of their teardowns, Mach-E, Model 3, Model Y, highly recommended. A lot of that stuff gets a little too technical, but I guarantee you it is worth the investment. Sit down, take a look at how experts in the field, true engineers, value what's being done by each of these auto manufacturers. They're working with them in order to get their products better. Tesla took on their reports, made their products better on the guidance of Monroe Lab.
Rivian shares are trading slightly higher this morning, up about 2% after an announcement they have agreed to adopt Tesla's charging standard. Ford and General Motors struck similar deals in recent weeks, securing access to Tesla's expansive North American charging network. Joining me now, Yahoo Finance's Pras Subramanian, who covers the auto industry for us. So Tesla keeps, racking up these partnerships. I'm still wrapping my head around what it all means. Investors, interestingly, seem to like this for Rivian.
Yeah, it's another domino has fallen in this whole sort of charging landscape here, where basically Tesla's NACS standard is now going to become, I think it's going to become the default standard for North America. We had GM signing on, you had Ford signing on, and now Rivian saying that in 2024 they'll be able to access the charging network. In addition to the fact that in 2025, newer vehicles are going to add a native Tesla port, the NACS port, in the car so they can go directly to the Tesla network without having to use an adapter. So that's a big deal. I think Rivian saw that they needed to hop on board in order to sell their vehicles to people that want to use that network. That's 12,000 superchargers. They're reliable. They're available. You got to hand it to Tesla there. They actually made a strong network, and everyone wants a piece of it. After Ford, ticked it off, they began that whole process. So here we are. I think that's a key driver here is that reliability and access to that network that everyone wants.
Sell electric cars in North America, it would only be wise to have the NACS connector already implanted on the cars. Regardless of whether or not they have the connector, they will have the adapter because Tesla's opening up the charging network regardless. Charge your non-Tesla is a thing. Even if these automakers do not come to the table with Tesla and strike a deal, their customers will already be using Teslas. You might as well have some say-so in how that customer interfaces with the charging network that everyone will be using. It's only common sense.
In the future, look at the side of my MacBook, right? And it has all these different size ports. Is that effectively what electric vehicles are going to be like, or will it be one port and various dongles that you have to adapters to get attach onto the thing?
It seems like it's not possible to have like multiple ports like you have on your computer on a car.
It's not enough space.
Not enough space. It's a lot of electrical sort of hardware. Yeah. Just have one, use adapters. Unfortunately, you have a trunk for that. But I think the bigger story for me is that the fact that the Tesla network is easier to use because you just plug it in and it knows your car. It has your billing information. You just plug it in. There's no app. There's no I got to type this stuff in. It's so clean. So I think that's also a big part is ease of use for their network is a big differentiator for people wanting to use it.
Interesting. Time for FOMO. So we are naturally talking all things EVs. Wouldn't be a week on Next Gen if we didn't start things off here because we are seeing some strength. Tesla's been a green mover all day long. Rivian's another one that's held on to a nice rally up over 4% today on the fact that they are partnering, of course, for Tesla's North American charging standard now and giving Rivian access to that massive infrastructure that Tesla has been building out.
Yeah, this is just another important step, I think, for all involved in electric vehicles. Obviously.
What? Don't look at me like that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to buy Rivian. That's not going to happen. Look, I think there'll be room for a lot of players in the EV space. It'll just come down to how much of a pain tolerance they have when it comes to ramping up the volume production. Will Rivian make it? I don't know. But this is a good step that they're partnering with Tesla in this way, which could probably lead to more partnerships. It opens the door for Rivian, if their pride's not too great, to maybe grab further insight from Tesla on how to make their vehicles profitable. Tesla's already an open book. If you wanted to replicate their products, you easily could. Scratch that, Tesla has the best engineers on the planet, sans SpaceX. So maybe it's not as easy as Tesla may make it look. You can at least head that direction, and adopting the NACS is clearly a good sign for Rivian that they intend to be a competitor. They want a slice of this ever so lucrative pie, which is the EV market.
Tesla comes out the winner in many ways from a technological standpoint because they kind of paved the way here and they're not going to have to change anything. They're just going to continue doing things as they were. These other companies are now coming in and going to basically just, learn how to make that type of charging outlet and basically giving credence to what Tesla's been doing. We've talked about this story several times, from Ford to GM to others. Rivian now the latest here. So this may go to show as well. Rivian becoming a little bit bigger player within this space, making that change, but only time will tell. Obviously, these two stocks have been going in very much opposite directions until today. Is Rivian been a struggling stock for the better part of the last year. Tesla doing its best to work its way back towards those all-time highs.
Wall Street can be so dense sometimes. Times like now, where the market has spoken, and it doesn't care for the likes of Ford Motor, where we are right now for our Best in America show, because it only has eyes for Tesla. The idea that there could be two auto companies worth investing in, one that's fully automated for electric vehicles, and one that uses lots of humans to make iconic nameplate cars and trucks, is considered sacrilege and hazardous to your portfolio. Only one works, and that one is Tesla, which rallied more than 5% today. Even on a bad day for the averages, Dow lost 245 points, S&P declined 0.47%, NASDAQ dipped 0.16%. But you know what? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. You see, I don't think that Ford and Tesla are mutually exclusive. There's no zero sum here. I think there's real value here in Ford. Buy, buy, buy.
Of course, Jim Cramer's all about that Ford Life, major investor in the company. But he was right about NVIDIA. I mean, he could easily be right about Ford, and if Ford can make the transition. I like Jim Farley. And even though my dad was a Chevy man, I'm a fan of Ford. I like what Ford has done, the history. Ford is synonymous with American. A world without Ford would be rather sad. Even though I am fully invested in Tesla, I do not want to see Ford fail. I don't want to see GM. I don't want to see any of these guys fail. We're going to have to come to grips. Ford just cut its business in thirds. One for the commercial business, one for the ICE business, and one for the EV business. They wouldn't have done that if they didn't think a part of their business was rotting on the vine. You have to separate that or you're going to lose the entire fruit. The rest of the legacy OEMs are going to have to do something quite similar because the numbers aren't going to add up. The money that they're losing from EVs is going to be siphoning from the little money that they're making selling internal combustion engines, mainly the ones that are selling the truck. But best believe these companies will be drowning, desperately doing financial gymnastics to make it appear that their transition is going smoothly when it's doing anything but. Will Ford survive? I hope so, but I'm not putting all my money on hope.
More value than is captured by its $14 share price, even with that 4.2% yield. More value than its agreement to use Tesla's charging network that allowed the stock to jump 3 points since late last month. More value even than the possibility of an earnings explosion as the internal combustion engine business spews cash towards Ford's future electric dominance.
Joining us now, PSEG CEO Ralph LaRosa. PSEG is the parent company of New Jersey's utility subsidiary, PSE&G. So the and is the right. Oh, great to have you here on set. Set up for me this new demand, right? Growing demand from plug-in hybrids, from EVs. What does that do to your ability to grow and to sort of manage efficiency to grow the business?
Yeah, John, so that chart is a great chart to have up front, right? If you think about the first 9 years that EVs were in the marketplace, we had about 30,000 vehicles showing up in New Jersey. Over the following 2 years, 30,000, and then last year, another 30,000, right? So while it's only 90,000 out of the 6 million cars that are on the roads, new car sales have been over 10% electric vehicles. So all we're trying to do is stay in front of that wave because the wave is coming. We've had some, we're celebrating our 120-year anniversary.
Looks like exponential growth to me. Weather nerds are predicting that the country is going to experience extreme heat this year. That's not good for utilities, and CEOs are going to be hot under the collar.
How much more over the coming years, how much more electricity demand are you expecting, especially when you don't just factor in EV adoption, but also stuff like building electrification, which I know is starting to take root in places like neighboring New York. How much more demand are you expecting, and what does that mean in terms of spending on your infrastructure to stay ahead of it?
Yeah, so we're expecting about a 20% increase, even with some of the energy efficiency steps that we're taking. And we're really trying to educate and work with our regional transmission operators because it all starts making sure there's enough power supply coming on the high line wires that are coming in, And then we are doing the upgrades in the local communities. And we can stay ahead of that by looking at demand on meters and so on and so forth. So I'm not as worried about the local communities. I want to make sure that we have enough generation source over time as we ramp up this usage.
For the past decade, for me, it's the first time electricity has become like a consumer good. Like it's become kind of sexy, like from solar panels to in-home batteries to the sort of, you know, if you want to plug in, right, your EV, what kind of plug do you need? You hear stories of people buying their EV before they even know how they're going to plug it in at home. How much of that are you getting at PSE&G? Like people trying to figure out, well, how do I make this work for me? Help walk me through this, and seeing you as a positive service provider versus just somebody to complain to.
Yeah, so we've had 3,000 of those calls this past year so far. So of the 30,000, about 3,000 reached out because they did not have the answers to that. And we were able to help them, walk them through that process. So we're glad to provide that service. We don't work behind the meter, but we're glad to advise customers as they call us.
That number is only going to grow from 3,000 out of 30,000. That number is going to increase dramatically. People adopt solar generation and solar storage. Depending on your state, you'll be using net metering. There is so much to learn about becoming your own private utility. And for utilities, it's getting more and more complicated, but that solar generation and storage is easing the burden in this upcoming sweltering summer. This will be a huge test, especially down here in Texas. Reliant Energy, the PUCT, these boys are going to be tested thoroughly in the upcoming months. And this is Texas. This is now home base for Tesla. There are Teslas everywhere. There will be charging of electric vehicles constantly. Enter the Tesla VPP, virtual power plants. Powerwalls will be propping up utilities all over the state of Texas. To recap, Tesla is dominating on all fronts from the business, exquisite product roadmap, partnerships with Ford, GM, and the likes. Everybody and their mother is going to need to be on this network to survive. To the stock price up over 120+% year to date. Something tells me Tesla's going to make some millionaires this year. Call it a hunch. Well, that's all I got for you today. Be easy. Peace.